In 1920, when Major Mike Webb's father was born, Reverend Charlie Webb, his grandfather, was a pastor of two churches in North Carolina, one in Thomasville, near Greensboro and High Point, and one in Leakesville, which is now called Eaton, just south of Danville, Virginia. The church he pastored and built, the Mount Sinai Baptist Church, today is on the National Historic Registry, just like the church that his wife's uncle pastored, the Central Baptist Church in Charleston, South Carolina. Reverend Charlie Webb was an ambitious and successful preacher of the gospel, and even drove a 7-passenger Buick, quite an accomplishment for any man in a small town in North Carolina before the Great Depression, and even more so because of the melanin content of his skin. But if you may recall, in that dark period of American history, Dixiecrats controlled the South, and the Ku Klux Klan was lynching African Americans in the largest numbers in history. So it is not surprising, even if not reported in the Wikipedia account recording for internet researchers the death of the father of Major Mike Webb. Reverend Charlie Webb was a person of interest for white supremacists who stalked his movements, threatened his family in their parsonage home, and eventually, in 1924, shot the preacher because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time and in the wrong uniform, wearing a suit while walking past a polling place on election day. That day, Major Mike Webb's grandmother, Mamie Lee Webb, a school teacher in a segregated schoolhouse, learned how to drive to save her husband from dying alone in a street where people just walked by her husband bleeding to death without giving a care. They would not take him at the hospital, and there was no police report, forcing Mamie Lee Webb with 3 small children to begin a drive north to find a hospital that would try to save her husband's life. And not one hospital would give him medical care until she arrived in Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love. He lived for 12 years thereafter, but a shell of a man that he used to be, and practically an invalid. Yet even though his wife was forced to work as a maid, because not even the city of brotherly love would recognize her teaching credentials that were granted by a college for the colored, and even though his son had to walk 5 miles to school each day to save the family some money to get coal to warm their house, Reverend Charlie Webb could be found at the polls on election day, every election day, to exercise his right to vote, even though he and his family had lost everything else, because he fervently believed and often repeated the phrase, "My God ain't dead yet, and neither am I." I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office on which I am about to enter. So help me, God. Not unmindful of the future is the motto of Washington and Lee University. My name is Major Mike Webb, and I am running for U.S. Congress. In liberty, with honor and excellence, the South shall rise again. Honest.
My soul
This advertisement was authorized by Mike Webb.